Oh my goodness. Oh my gracious. Could it be a Sunday stream? Hello, all and sundry. Oh, that's the worst opening of all time. I got a bazillion tabs open. I cut grape. I felt so sophisticated. I just cut grapes with scissors, because I'm in my grape phase. I just cut them with the scissors. I was gonna tear them off like a mere animal. Then I remembered I'm better than that. So thusly, oh wait, is my mic working? I don't. Oh yes, my mic is working. So I've got some beautiful seedless green grapes, supposedly seedless green grapes. I feel like every time I buy grapes, there are actually seeds in it, but that's like a deep conspiracy I have. That's a very personal deal to me. I mean, half the time I don't even taste the seeds, so it's not really a big deal. But it's just enough to make me just a smidge crazy. I don't know, I bought some goat milk fudge, and that's like my other thing. I went to a little town fair type bit in my area, and I bought some goat fudge. I also bought a candle, which was like apple flavored. I've currently got it burning along with another candle. So I've got like a really good environment right now for some Umineko mystery. And I've felt pretty shit today, so. But I finally feel a little better. I took like 2 little cat naps today, which I feel like is not great. But I still said I was gonna stream today. I want to do a longer stream. I was gonna try to go live earlier, but I just felt so bad. And then I'll be streaming for. I'm gonna try to stream once again, like every day this week, but we'll see. And then I'll be gone like Thursday, and I won't be back until like Monday. So that is what the next week's worth of streaming looks like. Alright, enough talking to myself. We are ready to move. I don't even remember really where I left off. Other than like, I didn't finish off cleanly like I wanted to because it was just getting really late. I don't know how to. I think I had to just overwrite saves. I don't even think I can really delete them. I don't really think it's that big of a deal, but. You know how it is. Alright. I finally noticed that the inside of the parlor had gone quiet again. Everyone had sunk into their favorite sofas, some deep in thought. Some irritated, some acting depressed. Maria was once again enjoying the TV as if she'd never left it. It looked like she found the commercials more fun than the boring program, and she happily yelled, "Ugh," and giggled. I stared at each person's appearance in turn. If there isn't a 19th person, the culprit must be in this room. That mustache is trash. I love Hideyoshi. He's a cool guy. But, what's his name? Genji? Kinzo. Oh my god. I'm so out of it. I need to help back on the Umineko train. Right, right now, Aunt Natsuhi searching the mansion with the servants, right? Then we shouldn't stay in this room. In this mansion is where the culprit has to be. Why did that pop up like that? Also, somebody was asking me about like some mod for Umineko, and I looked into it, and it didn't really seem like there was a reason to it other than having another option for art and some Japanese voice acting. Not really my deal, because I'd rather just read this. And I feel like that's gonna take up my reading time if I had to like listen to the voice lines in Japanese first and then read them in English. After all, it's possible Aunt Natsui was behind this, and we still can't deny that one of the servants might be the killer. Anyone could be guilty. Nanjo, Genji, Kinzo. Okay. Oh god, was my chewing audible? A little bit, I think. That's fun. I had to at least get like 500 viewers, active viewers, for me to even consider not chewing on camera, unfortunately. Or not camera, on mic, unfortunately. And that shit ain't ever gonna happen. Ooh, I love the wind blowing. I need to stop doing that thing where I like stare at Twitter for like 30 seconds in the middle of my stream. I just keep doing it. I can't help it. But somebody crashed out on me today on Twitter. It was really funny. It just posted like 8 different links trying to prove Hitler was a socialist, and it was not the like he fell for the propaganda. I'm afraid. And I didn't respond because I really didn't think I'd be able to change his mind, but like it was funny because he made his own, like he flagged his own post as spam and it kid, so nobody had to read it. Oh well. And then I looked at his follows because I was curious, and it was like just like all like just a bunch of Warhammer accounts and some really right wing ones. So I'm like, yeah. Oh, and like Sargon. Oh, he had one from Sargon, like telling about. That was like just insane. So I kind of felt vindicated. Still, Aunt Natsuhi and the rest are still taking their time. Of course, it's not a small mansion, but isn't this taking a little too long just to walk around checking the windows and doors? Just as I was thinking this, Aunt Natsuhi and the rest returned. Not one of them was missing, but our relief was short-lived. Everyone looked at Aunt Natsuhi in shock. The talk I'd had with Aunt Ava started. Wait, Aunt Ava. Oh, okay. Oh, wait. Oh, Natsuki's this one, Ava's this one. Okay. I feel like what Battler hasn't even considered yet is that even like if one of these people had killed the other 6, at least like they would all put up a fight, and there would be like bruising or scratches, cuts. Like, you know, whenever you, assuming they were killed with like a knife, you know, a person could put up a pretty good fight, I think, given enough adrenaline's going through them. But like that to me is like more evidence that there is just 19th person, because I know Beatrice is in the game. I know there's more characters. I don't know that much. I know a little bit. I have no idea how this game ends. The possibility that the culprits had enough in numbers or weapons to kill all 6 of those at once. Whoa. Okay. Hello. She's got a gun. Okay. I brought this to be prepared for the worst. I brought this to be prepared for the worst. After all, that thing in Aunt Natsui's hand was a rifle. This is a weird-ass looking gun. It's got like a hammer, and it's got a pump? I don't even know anything about guns. I can't even... Nope, not speaking authoritatively about guns. For all I know, it's a totally real gun. And no questions. At a glance, its silhouette looked like a hunting gun. But it was unusually short, and it looked like a kid-sized weapon. It looks like a Henry rifle. Like something out of the Wild West. Except it's got that pump. However, it had a weightiness to it that made it clear it was no kid's toy. That gun is Kinzo-san's, isn't it? Did you know about it? That's right. I remembered it was in Father's old collection, and I managed to find it. Whoa! Awesome! Natsuhi-san, is that thing real? Yes, it's real. It can fire live ammunition. Long ago, Father used it to scare away wild birds. Oh, that takes me back. Where'd you find that thing? No matter how much I asked him to let me touch it, he never let me even lay one finger on it. Oh. Grandfather had one of these? I didn't know that. Long ago, Grandfather was real. Is it a Henry rifle? Is that right? Johnny Cowboy Kinzo. Johnny Cowboy. That generation really liked this kind of rifle. Is that a... Oh, it's a Winchester, but... But I've never seen one that short before. Ah, I sawed the barrel off. I illegally modified it. The ATF is currently trying to entrap me. I remember, it's that gun. That really takes me back. That's the one Steve McQueen fired off in Wanted, Wanted, Alive or Dead. I think you got a translation error there. Actually, I'm probably wrong. Nope, taking it back. Father sure has good taste. It is an item that the master ordered specially from America long ago. As you can see, it is a working gun. So please don't tell anyone about this. Can't have guns in Japan. He was quite fond of it right after he managed to acquire it. Seems the workings had injected the cartridges were more interested in him than shooting it, and he played around with it back in the forest all the time. Still, it's rather disturbing. Are you sure you should be dragging this out? Yeah, what's a better time? This is to prepare for the worst. There was probably more than one offender involved. Ay, ay, ay. Furthermore, those horrible people killed 6 of us, including my husband. I have a responsibility to protect everyone until tomorrow in my husband's place. As Natsuhi said this, she slumped down with. Oh shit. Come on. Oh no, I did it again. Oh my god. As Natsuhi-san said this, she slumped down into one of the sofas and took a deep breath. She had been trying to find grandfather, as well as check the doors and windows. Since grandfather wasn't with her, she probably still didn't know where he was. I carefully checked all the doors and windows throughout the mansion. However, we must be prepared for anything. Everyone. I think it would be best if we all remained here. Oh, good point. If everyone's gathered here, then we can all feel more secure by keeping an eye on each other. What do you mean by that, Eva-san? Nothing really. I'm just agreeing with your opinion, aren't I? There was a stormy atmosphere between the two of them. They just don't like each other. If you think about who was the most suspicious from the inheritance problem standpoint, then Aunt Ava was the obvious answer. However, there was no proof that Aunt Natsuhi was innocent. No, if you view Beatrice's letter as one of grandfather's complicated pranks and think of this crime as just an extension of that, there's more than just enough reason to suspect even grandfather. Also, Aunt Natsuhi thought the criminal was on the outside, but Aunt Ava thought the criminal was on the inside. In short, it was the question of whether or not a 19th person exists. That same question has been... Whoops. My last grape. This is... Muy bueno. Sehr gut, echt toll. The question had been asked repeatedly since last night's dinner, with the letter from the witch who called herself Beatrice. Holy reading. So was the culprit among us or not? Holy smokes. Among us. So, oh, and did the witch Beatrice exist or not? If you assume that something as stupid as a witch can't exist, you're basically saying that one of these relatives here, who share a common bloodline, is the culprit. If that was too unpleasant, it'd be much more comfortable to simply accept the fairy tale-like character of the witch. A witch? A witch drawing a bizarre magic circle and offering human sacrifices? If I could accept that rubbish, I'd be able to trust all the people in this room. However, the damn common sense got in the way. I kept repeating that witches don't exist. In that case, the culprit must be among us. In the middle of the seemingly endless rain, none of us could break the silence. That's all I had to go for it to end last stream? That's all I had to do? I'm so mad. I could have just... Oh my god. It's 1 o'clock. They're like 6 hours into this freaking nightmare. I'm miffed. That's all I had to go before I could have just ended. Last time I streamed. Lunch ended and the servants removed the tableware and went into the kitchen. The wind and rain neither weakened nor strengthened, and the island remained cut off from the outside world. At first, it seemed as though Natsuhi planned to stop anyone from taking a step outside the room. But when it came time to prepare lunch, she finally realized that this would be impossible. However, in order to avoid having anyone alone in the kitchen, she told the 3 servants to go together. Because of that, the servants were the first ones given the right to leave the stuffy parlor, which had been packed with 11 people. Since breakfast had immediately followed that terrible incident, preventing most of us from eating much, everyone tore into their lunches in silence. I will wash the dishes so you can rest a while, Canon-san, Genji-chan. Zan, you want something to drink? I don't need anything. Canon? I don't need anything either. You two must be so busy, so early in the morning. It's no wonder why you're worn out. The only noise was that of Kumasawa's washing the dishes, which resounded throughout the kitchen. Genji and Canon sat in some chairs a short distance away, their eyes lightly closed. Just as Kumasawa had said, those two had probably built up a great deal of fatigue. But that didn't mean they could let it show in front of the relatives. I feel like this is a circumstance which could warrant that. I don't know. Avoiding that was one of their virtues. I don't really think that's virtue. Wait, did I? That's not really virtuous. Okay. After the silence had continued for some time, Cannon opened his mouth and muttered, Shannon, why did she have to die in such a horrible way? Forget about the manner of her death. It was nothing more than bad luck. You're right. It was nothing more than bad luck. They both fell silent once again. Cannon's expression was filled with grief. To think that Shannon-chan is actually dead. I still can't believe it. Poor thing. Not being able to see her again feels like a lie. I just wanted to see her smiling face one more time. Kumasawa spoke with her back facing them. After all, Kumasawa hadn't seen Shannon's corpse. And she had no trouble mentioning Shannon's face. When Cannon heard those words, it reminded him again of how only half of Shannon's face had been left, and his grieving expression twisted even further. Why did Beatrice-sama do that to Shannon? If she wanted a sacrifice, there are plenty of others to choose from. Why? Why? It was nothing more than bad luck. If we were less lucky, you or I might have been lying out there instead of Shannon. Or it could have been someone else entirely. Everything is left to fate. Genji-sama, you said that the door to Madame's room was stained with traces of something like blood, right? The same substance that was painted on the shutter? Indeed. It was an unsettling mark. Almost as though someone with blood-stained fingers had been trying to pull on the doorknob. No, scratch through the door. That sort of unpleasant mark. So does this mean Beatrice-sama came to visit the Madame's room and tried to open the door, but couldn't? Genji thought back to the time he had seen those traces of blood on the door to Natsui's room. With the substance sticking to the door around the doorknob, and the marks of something scratching against the door. It definitely appeared as though someone had tried to open the door, but couldn't. How? Why does it keep popping like that? I don't like that. How did the Madame avoid being chosen as a sacrifice? If she'd have been chosen, Shannon wouldn't have had to die. Just then, a loud, sharp noise came from the hall. Both of them turned around, surprised. That's a pretty interesting chat you're having there. Let me join in too. Before any of the servants realized, Battler was standing in the doorway to the kitchen. Battler-sama, how rude of us. Genji-san and Cannon-kun stood up, surprised and hastily bowed. But I didn't care about stuff like that. I was more concerned with continuing their discussion. I told them I was going to the bathroom, so they let me go. I thought I'd suffocate if I was locked up in that room any longer. I was about to come ask you guys for some water when I overheard something pretty interesting. You don't need to bow your heads or anything. Please, just let me hear the rest. It just now wasn't really... I've been listening for a while. Don't try to hide it now. So I'll ask directly. Who is this Beatrice? She's supposed to be a witch from a kid's story, but it doesn't look that way now. Ellipses. Canon-kun averted his gaze. It was obvious that he didn't want to talk about this, which only made me want to ask even more. While making an effort to smile, I grabbed the collar of his shirt. Last night, this would have been none of my business. But after this morning, everything's changed. Now that Dad and the rest have been killed, this is totally my business. I have the right to listen to this suspicious story, don't I? I glared into Cannon's eyes as he continued to avert his gaze in apparent pain. Since there was a big difference in our heights, Cannon had to stand on his toes, and it looked like it hurt a bit. Atlas-san, please let go of him. Cannon isn't really hiding or anything. And you don't have the problem talking about it, right? It's lonely being out of the loop, you know? When I tried to further twist up his collar, Genji-san cut between us and spoke. In his expression were faint traces that he'd made up his mind to do something. Apparently he had no intention of hiding it. I could tell you about it. Kankun only hesitated because you might have taken it badly, Battle-sama. Hesitating, huh? Not very manly of you. Whatever it is you're talking about, isn't it even more unpleasant having to keep it a secret? Tell me about it. It's not like we have anything better to do before tomorrow comes. A slightly spooky story might be the best way to avoid getting bored. Genji-san and Kanon-kun looked at each other and then nodded as though they decided to talk. Understood. Please, ask us anything. We will talk. Right. Then I'll ask, who in the world is Beatrice? All I know is that she's a witch who lives in the forest of Rokenjima. I've heard it's a story grandmother has someone invented to keep people out of this dangerous forest. I'm still huffing the crack theory that they're all related to Beatrice, and Beatrice is actually the grandmother. I have no proof, just a pure crack theory. I know she has orange hair, and I feel like I think it kind of got genetically passed on. I don't know. That's my only way to think that. That, or I also said he also might have just married a Western woman, but I think they would have mentioned that. Is that wrong? No, it isn't wrong. It's as you say. Beatrice is a witch who dwells in the forest of Rokenjima. Batlo-sama, I don't expect you to believe this all of a sudden, but Beatrice-sama exists. She's a real person. The one who gave Master a vast amount of gold, who worked by his side for many years. Huh? Come on. Is grandfather paying you to repeat everything he says? I laughed like it was a joke, but neither Genji-san nor Kanen-kun laughed. Not even Kumasawa Bachan was avoiding my eyes, flustered, as she started washing the dishes. So unfortunately, I was the only one laughing. Painfully, bitterly laughing. I see, that's why Genji-san refused to mention it. If you really mean it, of course I'd take it badly. So you're saying that a person named Beatrice actually exists? Yes. She has been working for the Master since before the mansion was built on this island. She has been most likely been working for him even longer than I have. What do you know? Kairi-san's theory was off. Grandfather really did have a confidant called Beatrice. Is that person on the island now? Yes. I believe that she is here. That's a vague way to say it. I guess that means you haven't seen her face today or yesterday. That is correct. It is extremely difficult to say, but, Kanen-kun once again dropped his gaze, avoiding my eyes. Come on, don't just stop here. That's like freezing an inch before the blow, right? I urged him on jokingly again. However, it looked like Kanon was still confused as to whether he should speak or not. Then Kumasawa Bachan whispered, "You can't see it your face because Beatrice-sama has no form. She has no... What did you say? Beatrice-sama has no body. Therefore, unless Beatrice-sama wishes it, common people like us are not able to see her form. I have heard that the portrait shows what Beatrice-sama looked like back when she had a human form. It seems he yearned for that figure so much he would often stand in front of that portrait. Beatrice-sama sometimes shows herself by changing her form into glittering butterflies. On the rare occasion that you spot them somewhere in the mansion, there's a rule that you absolutely mustn't chase after them. It is whispered that you will meet disaster if you do. In fact, there was a servant who broke that rule and quit because of a great injury. Wait a second, are you kidding me? Are you all serious about this? Kato-sama, Beatrice-sama has already arrived. Such language may be unwise. Beatrice-sama does not like it when she is profaned. If you doubt her existence, you will surely meet with disaster. Atlas-san, you probably find this topic unpleasant. But you know what? Beatrice-sama does exist. She exists. Beatrice-sama hates people who doubt that. Can't you tell, Atlas-sama? Beatrice-sama has already arrived here. Come on, quit it. I'm weak against that stuff. Enough with the cheap threats. However, there was no trace of a joke in the eyes of the three servants. On the surface, I laughed and tried to look unconcerned, but I was quickly starting to sober up. Their eyes were also sobering up fast. Atlas-san, I beg of you, stop profaning Beatrice-sama. Please trust me. Kumasawa Bachan, who was usually cheerful and would always tease people, now spoke with a totally serious face. Well, even if you say she exists, I don't see anything. Are you trying to say she's standing right next to me or something? Quit joking around. Just then, the unnerving laugh suddenly filled the kitchen. She gives me the freaking creeps. When I turned around, Maria was standing there by the entrance, but her expression and the feeling about her presence felt exactly the same as the servants. Whether your wavelength matches or not is determined at birth. Battler, you were born with a mismatched wavelength. That's why you can't see her. That's why you can't meet with her. And that's why you can't talk to her. I love it whenever I read her with like a super serious voice whenever she's talking seriously, but then I just added the Ugh! You're the type Beatrice hates the most. Maria laughed like it was funny, but it sounded extremely eerie. It was almost like she was laughing at me because I alone didn't understand. Do you want to know about Beatrice? Beatrice is a 1,000-year-old witch. With all of the demons at her command, she can harness the power of alchemy to create the Philosopher's Stone and has a vast quantity of gold. Oh, she mastered alchemy. She created the magnum opus. Oh wait, no, I think the Philosopher's Stone is only the first part of mastering alchemy. It's like, what are the great words? It's like the rebus, the divine hermaphrodite, the Philosopher's Stone, alchemy, and then there's like immortality. I watched Full Metal Alchemist. It's coming in handy. I also watched the Castlevania show, which also had a lot of alchemy stuff in it. Grandfather built up all the vast wealth of the Yoshiramiya family by making a contract with her. Yesterday I read Beatrice's letter, didn't I? That was real. Well, I guess it's pointless for me to try and force you to believe. After all, it looks like you were born without a trace of the sixth sense. What are you talking about? Witches, demons? Who told you about that? I heard about it from Beatrice herself. Maria kept doing that unpleasant laugh. However, the servants who watched over this didn't even blink. She heard it from the witch in the portrait adorning the entrance hall. Maria kept on laughing in a weird voice, as though this was nothing more or less than the truth. Maria, it might be rude to ask, but I'll ask one more time, okay? Who gave you that letter yesterday? I got it from Beatrice. How many times must I tell you before you understand? Oh, she's either, Maria's either totally locked in, or she's just watching tunes. She's watching cartoons and just having a good time. She's totally unfazed. You don't get it, do you? You can't see it. You can't believe it, can you? Just then, Maria's laughter suddenly stopped. Battler, you still don't understand. Beatrice-sama exists. She exists, you say, but where? Like I said, Beatrice-sama exists here. That's right. Now that I think about it, I've been feeling for a while now the servants' eyes have been pointed quite in the right direction. I'd figured they were just staring absent-mindedly, but no, wasn't the case. The four here, Genji-san, Kanan-kun, Kumasawa-san, and Maria, everyone except me, was looking at a spot right behind me. Holding my breath tightly, I slowly looked over my shoulder. Of course there wasn't anyone there. I've known that the whole time. However, everyone in the room except me was focusing on that point as if there was someone there. Beatrice is the mighty golden witch who has lived for 1,000 years. But since she can't show her form to humans of the wrong wavelength, she can't talk to them. And you know what? That's really sad. It means that she truly despises it when people like you, who are born without a fragment of the ability needed to sense magic, deny that she exists. You're lucky, Battler. Good thing I gave you that charm yesterday, right? Don't you realize what kind of curse Beatrice would have put on you by now if you hadn't been carrying it around? You really are lucky, Battler. Oh, that scorpion keychain. I thought that was just some cheap gift or something, but you really are saying it had some power. If it weren't for that, you'd be lying in that storehouse as a sacrifice with your face crushed by now. You're so lucky, Battler. I see. So if it weren't for that, I'd have been killed by now. Battler, why don't you believe in Beatrice, even though she exists? Right now, over there, look. Hey, I bet you'll want to believe it now. Believe it. And thank me for giving you that charm. If it weren't for that, you'd be in the storehouse right now. But then, maybe you would have saved someone else in exchange, right? Right then, I burst into laughter. Playing witches has been pretty fun up until a second ago, but unfortunately, that last one seemed to be too much for me to gloss over. Dun, 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 dun. This is like some Death Note shit. Like, I feel like this is like L and Light just going back and forth. Then it's all useless, isn't it, Maria? If that's true, then I'm sorry, but it's all useless. When Maria saw me suddenly start laughing, she stopped. Even though she didn't understand what I was laughing at, she realized it wouldn't be pleasant for her. Ellipses. I thought it might hurt you, so I didn't say it earlier, but... Well, I thought I'd put that charm you gave me in my pocket. But I must have dropped it somewhere. So the charm can't be the only reason I'm alive now. And even though I should have been cursed by the witch, I'm perfectly fine. Sorry, but I don't believe in things I don't see with my own eyes. Sixth senses, wavelengths, magic sensitivity. Sorry, but I don't believe in fake stuff like that. When I hear the girls in class start talking about how good or bad their ability to sense the supernatural is, it pisses me off. I don't know how much grandfather is paying you, but if you're trying to talk me into joining some cult, believe me, you won't be able to do it that easily. Osama, you guys are free to believe whatever you want. However, when it comes to things I believe, the one who decides is always me. Sorry, but I can't believe in something as shady as Beatrice until I've seen her with my own eyes. I spoke forcefully and sharply. Then, Maria started cackling again. Well, that's just fine, isn't it? Eventually, even people like you with totally mismatched wavelengths will be able to see Beatrice. Very soon, she will revive. Beatrice will revive. Once that happens, she promises to talk with me and play with me a lot. There will be absolutely no need for you to doubt or for us to force you to believe. She will appear so very soon. After a meal, some people tend to head to the bathroom, while others prefer to relax for a bit. It seemed that several people had left the parlor, just like I did when I went to the kitchen to drink some water. And that flame in my room is burning really tall. Dude, she is so locked and loaded, I can't believe it. In the end, Aunt Natsuki reluctantly retracted her order that everyone remain packed into the parlor. That's so bad. That is such a bad idea. On the condition that no one headed out on their own or strayed too far. In any case, if 11 people are shut up in the same room starting early in the morning, the air will start to feel stagnant. Also, quite some time had passed, so everyone was starting to recover from the shock of that morning, and their sense of danger might have been weakening too. I wouldn't even go to sleep. I would just stay up the whole time. I wouldn't even care. Probably couldn't even sleep if you wanted to. Oops. I really just want to be stun locked on YouTube Shorts tonight. However, it is almost a certain fact that 6 people have been killed inside this mansion, so no one was completely negligent. They've done no forensic investigation, which is wild. They don't even know how they died. Actually, I guess they were... I don't know. It's that... I think maybe I'm forgetting something, but... I think they said the head crushing happened after death? I don't know. So whenever they went out into the hallways for a breath of fresh air, trying to act tough, they would quickly get scared of standing there, isolated, and would eventually return to the parlor. I guess it's like the north wind and the sun. If you force someone to stay shut in, they'll resist. But if you tell them to do whatever they want, they'll come back obediently. People really do like not doing what they're told. When the servants finished cleaning up from the meal, they returned obediently to the parlor, just as Aunt Natsui had told them to, and sat on a sofa near the entrance, patiently awaiting orders. Maria, almost as though she had suddenly finished playing witches, had returned to the pure Maria I knew well, saying, "Ugh, what in the world happened back there?" I hadn't even felt an atom. I hadn't felt even an atom of the presence of this person called Beatrice, who was supposedly standing behind me, invisible. However, it felt like I'd glimpsed a little of that presence inside Maria. You're right. When Maria starts talking about witches, her personality changes. Battler-kun, you also saw it down by the beach yesterday, right? You mean that scorpion keychain? No, I don't mean like when her feelings were hurt. I'm talking about her having a dual personality or something. Yeah, that happens sometimes too. That thing Maria did when she was talking about the magic circle does happen every now and then. It's freaky though. Apparently, Jessica had spotted that Maria a few times. I just happened to catch it at a bad moment and was pretty freaked out seeing it for the first time. So what is it? So what is that? Does Maria have a dual personality or something? Or are you saying that her spiritual sense really is that strong and she's being possessed by a spirit or whatever? No, I don't think it's that. Haven't you ever experienced it? When you were small, didn't you ever want to be something other than yourself? When humans are born, no one has any individuality. However, when they reach their growth period, their sense of self starts to be born. Therefore, wait, why did I? Okay. They want to be different from other people. But since everyone else is in their class is learning the same thing at the same rate and being forced into the same lifestyle, of course they aren't going to find anything that makes them different from everyone else around them. Once they realize that, the first thing they do is start breaking the rules. It's what's called their rebellious stage. Since everyone else follows the rules, they want to show off their individuality by breaking them. So even those who try to act tough, mocking everyone around them and calling them childish, can actually be viewed as cute kids searching for themselves, if you look at it this way. Well, I'm lecturing about this like I'm so smart. Actually, I got secondhand from George Aniki. I myself was one of those embarrassing guys who thought it was cool to act like a little bastard. You still are a little bastard. Well, that was when I was at the age when you try to show off to the opposite sex. The main feature of growing period lies in an impulse to break away from your life as a kid, like a chick trying to crack open a shell of their egg. Do you know what makes children and adults different? The amygdala? Age? Or do you mean size? No, it's experience. Adults can look down on children because children have very little life experience. The reason they snort at everything children say is because they think kids know nothing about the real world. Yeah, I understand that. When you're a kid, you talk like you've got it all figured out somehow, trying to act like an adult. No matter what kids say, adults just snort at them and say they're too naive or that they'll understand when they get older or something. Well, it's probably true, but to a kid, it's just annoying. They're being looked down upon. I get it. It's a question of knowledge and experience. Well, I guess you're right, there's no reason to respect a person for their age if they've just wasted their lives. Wow, I wouldn't know anything about that. Therefore, during the period when they try to separate themselves from the other children, they also try to take on a personality traits different from those around them. And if knowledge and experience what separates kids and adults, I get it. If they know something no one else knows, it becomes part of their identity. You know, when I was in elementary school, I'd learn things no one else knew, get things no one else had, wear things that no one else wore, and became a bit of a hero for it. I bet you've done the same thing, Battler. Yeah. There definitely was an age when I wanted to excel in some skill or the other. I see, so that's because I was trying to separate myself from being a child, or going through my own growing period, in other words. If you put a positive spin on it, the growing period forces you to separate yourselves from others, thereby pushing you to gain skills and knowledge no one else has. This is also interesting from a sociological standpoint, because people hate being like everyone else. They try to learn skills from other people that other people don't know. In this way, society can acquire the broad range of skills it needs to survive. The quality of the gods' programming truly is surprising. Well, unique personality traits can also be negative, right? Like if everyone in class was studying hard, but if say everyone in the class was trying, reading is really difficult and hard. Well, unique personality traits can also be negative, right? Like if, say, everyone in the class was studying hard, but I was the only one slacking off, trying to stand out. Okay, the last bit really was true about me. It's only recently that I've been able to thank the middle school teacher who slapped me after school. You could lose your job for that. Well, I tried to jump over things no one else could. Sprint as fast as I could, trying to lap those guys with good grades when we did the marathon. I just felt like doing it. It was in my nature that if I could study well, then at least I could get back at them by exercising. I see, so I really did go through a proper growing period. I guess boys really do tend to focus more on physical stuff. But girls of the same age tend to focus more on mental, spiritual things. I'll bet there were groups of girls in your classes that got really interested in fortune telling in their spiritual sense. Yeah, there were. They'd come over asking me for my sign and my blood type, and they'd laugh. Ah, I thought so. It really got on my nerves. No matter which class you go to, girls like fortune telling, deciding whether your spirit sense is strong or weak, what your sensitivity is, whether you could see the unseeable, that kind of thing. It definitely happened to me. That's because fortune telling and spiritual senses are things that aren't taught in school. To girls who tend to be more introverted, it's a genre that's easy to build an identity upon, and one that holds a lot of interest for them. Just like how when boys enter their growing periods, they start acting tough and rebel against adults. When girls enter their growing period, they start getting interested in that kind of thing. Well, I didn't, though. So Maria this should really not be news to him. So Maria having so much interest in the occult isn't so rare among girls her age. No, it's just the fact that she knows Hebrew. And knows shit from the Lesser Key of Solomon. Even if we accept that, I wonder if it explains that creepy dual personality thing. Actually, I think I probably could accept that explanation more or less. As you just said, becoming an adult means gathering knowledge and experience. So to gain that, it's necessary for children to learn all sorts of things and break free from childhood. However, there are certain convenient delusions that you see often in the world of children, both now and in the past. Do you know what I mean? You see it all the time in manga and anime, right? It's kind of like that. Like you've got memories from a previous life that start to resurface. Like you're being possessed by the soul of a great something or whatever. Ah, or it could be that a sleeping gene gets awakened. Or maybe a sealed power or memory returns. There's all kinds. For some reason, stuff like that's easily popular at that age. Why is that? All those examples you've just mentioned are illusions that children immediately add to their sum of knowledge and experience. If a 9-year-old girl says she has a 1,000-year-old witch possessing her, then she gains a 1,009-year-old identity. So basically, studying is annoying, but these delusions are convenient for people who want to brag about having a skill no one else has, amazing the people around them. So you could brag about something without having to work hard or study. I see, isn't that a kid's greatest dream? Furthermore, in their desire to separate them from being kids, they always project an image of their ideal self. And it's not rare for that desired self to become an alternate personality. Even you, Battlerkun, probably had a slightly different personality at home and at school, right? It'd probably be embarrassing if your friends at school saw how you were at home. At school, you try to project yourself as you want to be, but home is where you're your true self. So in other words, I'm changing my personality depending on the situation. Are you trying to say that having multiple personalities is actually really common? No, it's just called, it's not multiple personalities. It's called, I forget what it's called. Masking. A girl who's a fan of the occult might say she's possessed or awkward or awakened. Honestly, there are some kids who change their personality so much it's creepy. Some boys do it too, right? Guys who say they've blown their top and suddenly turn into some overplayed violent character. I bet they'll think it's pretty cool, but it's painful to watch. Let's sum this all up. So you're saying that even if a girl about Maria's age shows a creepy second personality like she did a minute ago, it isn't such a rare or unusual thing? Simply put, that's right. Man, they're really just like explaining Battler the concept of children being weird and like trying identities. This game just it's a little overwritten sometimes, but when it's good, it's really good. Identity is an important factor when building up one's sense of self. Or maybe this all just wraps around into actually being really important, as establishing themes and like through the story. But that would require media literacy, and I don't think I'm ready for that. If you make fun of it, it could actually cause children to go back into their shells. So it's important to go along with them to some degree. Although the broad-mindedness of the parent determines whether or not they play along in full or not. Anaki, I can't believe you're single. You sound like you've already raised kids through middle school. So I wonder... Well, yeah, because he's dating one. Oh! Oh! I'm here all week. Ugh, it's too easy. So I wonder if Aunt Rosa also knew much about Maria's dual personality. She knew about it. Just between us, Aunt Rosa really hated it. Yeah, she slapped the shit out of her. She said it was unpleasant, and that Maria was becoming increasingly isolated from the rest of the class. So anytime Maria started talking about the occult or laughing like a witch, she'd slap her. It looks like Maria stopped talking that way in front of her. Maybe that thing back there was just a little game from a girl facing her growing period. Just a girl trying to show that she was different and independent by holding interest in witches and the occult. And since she wanted to be different from herself, young as she was switching between her normal personality and the personality of her ideal, a witch. At first I'd found that very disturbing, But after being lectured by George Aniki, it felt like this was a path everyone walked down at one time or another. Yeah, I was an annoying kid. I haven't told anyone, but when I was in kindergarten, I joined up with a little gang of kids trying to form an Earth Defense Force, EDF, saying we'd help protect peace on Earth. My face turns red when I remember how. Oh, they know what's up. They know what's up. They played EDF. EDF! EDF! Just like usual, Maria was relaxing. Immersed in the TV. Ooh-ooing. Just and laughing, just like any girl her age. But on the inside, another personality, that of the ideal witch she respected and blindly accepted, was sleeping. But that wasn't anything extraordinary. It was perfectly natural for a girl her age. I'm gonna put out my candles. I'll be right back. Also, how's my water doing? It is fine, so I'm just gonna put out some candles. Give me like 30 seconds. Yeah. Not even turning off the microphone. And I'm gonna open my door because I am freaking sweltering in here. I am freaking so unbelievably hot right now. Oh my god. I've calmed down a little. The shock from my bizarre experience in the kitchen just now is fading away. If I hadn't talked to Aniki and Jessica, I might still be frightened by the idea that an invisible witch is standing right behind me. However, can I really accept that an explanation for what happened back there? If it had just been Maria, I could have explained it as the fickle delusions of a growing girl. But Genji-san, Kanin-kun, and Kumasawa Bachan had also been there. None of them had denied what Maria said. They silently accepted that Beatrice exists. I was starting to feel a little uneasy. I'm already an hour into this stream? That is crazy. Aunt Ava's position was that no 19th person existed. That the crime was an inside job tied to the family quarrels. On the other hand, Aunt Natsui's position was that the culprit was hiding somewhere outside the mansion. Okay, so let me remind myself what is actually supposed to happen on this second day. Those who remain shall tear apart the two who are close. So there's two people who are close. So that's these two, I don't know. I'm smoking fictional crack right now. On the other hand, Natsui's position was that the culprit was hiding somewhere outside the mansion. So she rejected the possibility of an inside job and supported the idea that a 19th person existed. And in the kitchen, Maria and the servants had also supported the idea of a 19th person. But according to them, this 19th person isn't human. They said it was an invisible witch carrying out some mysterious plan. Is there a 19th person or not? And this culprit, human or a witch? For some reason, I couldn't just laugh off any of those possibilities. Not even the most ridiculous story about the witch. Jessica, All I know about the story of the witch is that the adults made it up to keep the kids too scared to enter the forest. But is the story different here in the mansion? Hmm. I feel the same way you do, okay? Think of it as just a I think of it as just a stupid ghost story that my parents made up so their kids would listen to them. But I can't deny that the atmosphere inside the mansion makes it a little hard to say out loud. After all, grandfather had proclaimed that Beatrice exists, and because of their position, the servants can't double that. Even Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsui don't want to go get into a fight with him. I think it's very obvious a 19th person exists. There is obviously a 19th person. Because when I opened the game on Steam, on the Steam store, when I bought it, I saw Beatrice, and she is a character that the main character talks to at some point in the game, and that's all I know. So I'm 20% sure, I'm 80% sure that this is a 19th person, Sid Solander. I could be wrong, and if I am, it's probably Aunt Natsuhi, because I don't like her. Even Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsui don't want to get into a fight with him, so on the surface, they go along with it. So it's probably fair to say that doubting the existence of Beatrice is taboo to those who live in the and work in the mansion. I just did the craziest neck crack of my life. Oh my gosh. Just absolutely let her rip. Cracked my neck. Unlike the rest of us who only come here once a year. Is that right? Jessica took a deep breath in admiration. It looked like Aniki had guessed right. It's just as you say. No one really believes it on the inside. But on the outside, they accept that she exists. See, it's just like some way some people are about God. Even if they know God doesn't exist, they feel like it'd be uncouth if they actually said it out loud. How do you think the servants feel about it? Are they just going along with it because grandfather, their employer, says that she exists? Well, I don't really know the details, but between the servants, the story about Beatrice has been treated like some sort of ghost story. Remember yesterday when Shannon was talking to us down by the beach? That story about how one night, when she was doing the rounds in the mansion, she saw something unsettling? She did say something like that, didn't she? Back then, I just thought she was just being really nice to help improve Maria's mood, but it felt like she was serious when she had said it. That's right, she definitely said it. She definitely said the same kind of thing that Genji and the rest had all unanimously declared back in the kitchen. In addition, some servants have seen will-o'-the-wisps and glittering butterflies dancing around. Cannon-kun also saw something like that when he went patrolling around one night. And recently, you often hear servants talking about strange footsteps heard outside the mansion near midnight. We've whispered together that Beatrice-sama in the portrait sometimes makes herself invisible and walks through the mansion. It happened a while ago, but even I have heard footsteps while patrolling at night that resemble these stories. That's right, she definitely said that. Exactly the same thing I had just been told now. Ah, but there's nothing to be afraid of. Beatrice-sama is another ruler of this mansion, separate from the master. So there's no need to be unnaturally afraid. If you respect her, I hear she won't do anything bad. However, she can be quite terrifying if you don't respect her, right? Correct. I've heard that too, just before I began working here. Someone who spoke badly about Beatrice-sama fell down the stairs and quit after receiving a large injury to their back. I hope they got a good severance package now. Because of that, there was a rumor between the servants that Beatrice-sama's anger had been brought down upon this person. If you don't respect her, you'll suffer her wrath and get hurt. So to the servants, Beatrice's existence is just as credible as the story that if you pull pranks on Inari-san, you'll receive Kitsune-sama's curse. Okay, those are Japanese spirits, I believe. Of course, even though everyone accepts that curses and the like don't exist in this, now we've moved on to Jujutsu Kaisen, which I never finished. People are still afraid and still have a little respect for them. You often see it when, in a residential area, someone is building a house and they call a Shinto priest for a ceremony to honor the god of that plot of land. You might think that was just a big waste of time and money, but it is said that if the workers don't do that, a big accident will occur, so they never neglect to do it. You also hear about how, if an Inari shrine is carelessly removed during a town replanning, there'd be a curse by Kitsune-sama. I think I might have read somewhere that when the occupying forces were trying to expand an airport, they tried to remove an Inari-san that was in the way, and the workers kept getting struck down by mysterious fevers. Even in modern cities like Tokyo, it wasn't rare to see modern buildings packed all around an old Inari shrine, leaving the shrine itself untouched. And this wasn't limited to Japan. It's probably similar to how foreigners baptize babies. If I remember right, by Christian doctrine, if unbaptized souls even have the slightest amount of sin, they will go to hell. Putting water on a child's forehead doesn't do anything but make them cry. But if by doing just that, parents can prevent their children from going to hell, they'll happily go through that ceremony. I want Battler to drop the F-bomb again. I really want to. In short, even in the modern society of reason, I have no idea why I said that. In short, even this modern society of reason, we were still able to throw away the accident what? Where did I get the word accident from? We still were unable to throw away every trace of their belief and fear. Eventually. Oh my god. You could say that we accept certain sorts of supernatural things, though in a positive way. Maybe the only difference on this island is that Beatrice is the object of that worship. So in other words, if anything happens that doesn't seem inexplainable in human terms, it's called the work of Beatrice. I think Shannon-chan said it herself. Windows and doors and locks that were tightly shut would open the next time you went to check them. Lights that should have been on went out, and lights that should have been out were turned on. And if I remember, even Jessica was joking about it, saying it was also the work of Beatrice when she couldn't find her bag in the morning. Your memory's pretty good. Normally you'd say some little imps took them, but on this island, it's Beatrice. Well, it's all pretty stupid though. This mansion has been standing for about 30 years by now, hasn't it? It's natural for things that old to get their fair share of ghost and occult stories. Like the 7 mysteries at a school. That's like such a fun anime trope. But that's where I'll spin the chessboard around. Huh? Simply put, on this island there's a rule that Beatrice gets blamed for anything that could have been done by humans. Things that humans can't do. How many humans are there? 11. 18. In other words, the culprit is using the rules of this island to make it look like a witch committed this crime. Which proves that they desperately want us to think a 19th person did it. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. What do you mean you don't like it? Let's assume some invisible 19th person exists and wants people to know they exist. If it were me, I'd do it with even more perfect timing. What do you mean by perfect timing? Well, the crime took place sometime between the middle of the night and dawn, right? We had some people who were talking together until the middle of the night. Some people on night shifts and some people who returned to their rooms and were sleeping. Everyone's alibi is really vague, so there's plenty of room to suspect that crime was an inside job. George Aniki, Aunt Ava probably told you too, right? There's a good chance this crime was an inside job. Yeah, I guess. In other words, basically it can't be any of the children because they were all locked inside the guest house, so it's not any of the children. Or it's not that they were locked in the guest house, it's that the mansion was locked. It can't be... So it basically has to be like these... It has to be like one of these people. That's assuming if there is an 18th person, which I don't think there is, but... If this game like fakes it out on me, I'm gonna lose my shit. I will absolutely lose my shit if there really isn't a 19th person, and it's just like... I will lose my mind. I will lose my mind. In other words, if this invisible 19th person really exists and wants us to know it, this first crime is a complete failure. No, in the first place, they chose the wrong time of day to do it. If this invisible 19th person really wanted to show themselves, they had to make sure that the crime took place under conditions which proves that the remaining 12 people were all innocent. As long as there's a single human we can suspect, this 19th person's attempt to highlight their presence fails. That's why near midnight, when everyone's alibis are at their vaguest, the 19th person's existence is also at its vaguest. And yet, the culprit chose to commit the crime at that time. By committing the crime then, one of the 18 would obviously be suspected. And yet, someone handed Maria the letter and called themselves a witch, even though everyone denies they did it. In other words, you're trying to say that one of the 18 is trying to make it look like a 19th person called Beatrice exists? That's a pretty crazy idea. I think Mom's theory about someone hiding outside the mansion is a bit more credible. Battler, don't tell me you actually think someone in this room is the culprit. I do. Someone's trying to force us to accept that Beatrice exists. That's right. This whole thing started as far back as the letter last night. I don't have any basis or proof. But with the chessboard turned around, this is my best guess. Seriously, that's too crazy. You sure you haven't been reading too many weird detective novels? However, it is an angle we can't ignore. Whether there's a 19th person or not, the culprit definitely is planning something involving that rule about this island. Just now, listening to Battler Kun talk, I remember something that's a little disturbing. Something disturbing? Yes. Do you remember? Beatrice's letter. It said that Beatrice was going to collect interest. And by interest, it meant everything of the Yoshiramiya family. Jessica and I thought back on what Maria had read aloud the previous night. Yeah, it said that. It definitely said that. The collection of that interest was going to take place shortly. But if the riddle of the gold could be solved, she'd lose that right. Grandfather received the gold and rebuilt the Yoshiramiya family. Isn't it kind of freaking suspicious that The only person who knows for certain that the gold exists is Natsui, and she hasn't told anything or anybody about it. Isn't that interesting? I don't know. That seems really interesting to me. And then there was that whole thing Kinzo was telling her about how she's like actually really awesome and super cool. And that he actually really likes her. And that how she... That is so interesting. Anyways, it's either Beatrice for real or it's Natsui. And she's gonna dump lead into the whole family. Because she'll get the inheritance to herself. Grandfather received the gold and rebuilt the Ashiramiya family. In other words, according to Beatrice, everything created using the gold as capital counts as part of the interest. Which means... That's pretty scary for a joke, Aniki. You don't mean everything of the Ashiramiya family. In other words, everything that grandfather gave birth to. In other words, everyone with grandfather's blood flowing through their veins? If you interpret the letter that way, it's Rumpelstiltskin. It's Rumpelstiltskin. If you interpret the letter that way, these murders are just Beatrice legitimately collecting interest. If that's the case, these crimes will continue. Because of the collection of interest is still only halfway completed. George turned around, looking over the parlor. There were still many people who held the name Ushiromiya. And because Goda-san and Shannon-san had been killed, we knew that not even the servants were safe, despite lacking the Ushiromiya name. So they are planning to kill us all? But that's weird, George Nisan. In that case, why only 6 people? They should have been able to kill a lot more. At worst, it shouldn't have been possible for them to assault everyone while sleeping and kill them in a single night. Why didn't they do that? The special clause. If someone manages to solve the riddle of the gold, their right to exist will be lost. It challenged us to solve the riddle of grandfather's... This is like freaking the ring cycle at this point. Like this is Wagner. Because I feel like this game is getting some little tidbits from like Western occultism. Well, I say tidbits, but it's a lot more than that. Jesus, it looks like when you're finally understanding the culprit's message. In other words, the culprit's is telling us to try and solve the riddle in that epitaph grandfather had made. On top of that, they're saying that if we just sit around, they'll keep collecting the interest. I realize this is all based on several guesses that are way out there, but not everything that happens in this world fits together in a perfect line. Most of the events we don't understand are only individual points. By fitting them into a straight line, we're beginning to understand. When the point at either end of the line are really close, the line itself is more logical and easier to understand. And even when those points are really far away, the opposite is true. It's the distance between these points that makes us say our guesses are way out there. However, if the distance we span are too narrow, then that means our thinking will be narrow too. Is there a difference between making guesses and reasoning? Am I really just using easily made guesses to try and force this crime into a pattern I can understand? I mean, I don't think it's that bad to be using Occam's razor here, Battler. I feel like you're being very logical. No, that's not it. When you're lost in the dark and searching around with your hands, what you're doing is relying on your imagination and making guesses. Only imagination can find points that need to be tied together. Reasoning is nothing more than an act of drawing lines between them. If you can't imagine, you can't reason. What I'm doing now might be way out there, but I'm sure it isn't even a mistake either. Only the power of imagination can pull clues out of from the darkness. Imagination. And then I can use the power of reasoning to tie those clues together. It was a lot like the process of searching out an enemy's weak spot and striking. Okay. It's okay if I'm way out there. Find a weak point first. Then we can think about how to strike. Right now, right now is the time to find points we can tie together later. For the time being, I put aside whether a 19th person existed, and announced our theory that the goal of the culprit might have been to make us solve the riddle of the epitaph. Uncle Hideyoshi seemed to be extremely interested, but Aunt Natsui said it was ridiculous and dismissed it. Of course, if you think about it that way, even that letter from yesterday makes sense. That motive seems to fit well with the facts. Setting aside whoever gave Maria Chan the letter. Ugh! Beatrice exists! Ugh! Even though she was puffing up her cheeks in that cute way she'd been doing since yesterday, I couldn't think of it as cute. If I poked fun at her, it might suddenly transform into a creepy laugh. There's no hidden gold. However, the culprit is blindly sure of its existence, and that they're trying to solve the riddle before snatching the gold away themselves, then I will agree it makes sense. However, if that were the case, why would they start by killing those most highly ranked in the Yoshimiya family? I see your point. If they wanted to make us solve the riddle, killing those close to Kinzo-san doesn't seem like a good plan to me. That's true enough. If we're trying with that argument, wouldn't it have been quicker to threaten father in the first place? You'd think it'd be faster just to ask the person who wrote it rather than trying to force us to solve it. You've got a point there. Still, I think it's more than your average threat to make father spill the beans. I'll have to do a southern accent, okay. Anyone who knows Kinzo-san well would probably realize that he won't bow to ordinary threats. He's the man who bears responsibility for the Yoshimiya family and its vast wealth. He's been exposed to many threats and attacks in the past. The family only prospers today because he was able to overcome all of them. That's freaking right! I can't even imagine our grandfather obeying someone because of a threat. Jessica, watch your language. Yes, Mom. In that case, what about this idea? No, wait. Is this one also way out there? I couldn't hesitate. Out there, ideas are like bows and arrows. It might be hard to hit with, but it's a great weapon because you can hit enemies far away. They say most people who died in battles were killed by arrow wounds. In a battle, you can't just shoot off one arrow. You shoot a whole bunch of arrows at once, pushing forwards towards the enemy troops with a wall of them. So keep shooting, over and over. Create a wall as you push towards the truth. If the culprit is after the hidden gold, forcing us to solve the riddle wouldn't be very efficient for them. It'd be much quicker and easier to ask the person who made it in the first place. In that case, the question is this all a message directed at grandfather? In other words, these murders were a threat made against grandfather. If he didn't tell the culprit where the gold was, his family members would be killed off one by one. What if we weren't the only ones being forced to solve this riddle? What if grandfather was too? If you think about it that way, it explains grandfather's mysterious disappearance. If the culprit had already attacked grandfather, then judging by that state the 6 corpses were left in, he should have been the only one on display somewhere with that horrible makeup added. But despite that, we still haven't found him. That does mean grandfather has been kidnapped and is being held somewhere? How could... You aren't saying... How could... Giggle, giggle. That sounds interesting. So grandfather's being confined somewhere. That culprit's saying will be killed off one by one if he doesn't tell them where the gold is. It pains me to imagine you find that interesting. Aunt Natsui glared at her, but Aunt Ava just smiled calmly. Since we still haven't seen him after this time, I think it's almost certain that grandfather had gotten caught up in the crime. If you think about it, you can't just ignore Batlakun's theory, right? Be quiet, George. In the first place, when did father actually disappear? Who was the last person to see father? It was probably me. This morning, when we didn't know where my husband and the rest were, we discussed the possibility of them being in father's study. And I went to check his room and greeted him there. Come to think of it, I've been holding the key to his study this whole time, haven't I? Genji, let me return this to you. Aunt Natsui pulled out the gold key and handed it to Genji. Looking at the key, Aunt Ava giggled. Hey Genji-san? I'm sure the police will inspect my father's room thoroughly. If there's anything hidden there, it'll just be exposed anyway. So maybe it'd be better if you just told us about it right here or right now. What are you talking about? It's simple. Father's study is a closed room, with no way in or out except for that key, right? I just want to verify whether that's true. There is one entrance to Father's study. What about the window? Any other entrances or exits? There are none. There's no way to get in except the entrance. You're sure about that? There isn't some secret hidden door or anything? Since father isn't that here, I am the highest ranked member of the Ashiramiya family. I'm asking you as a representative of the Ashiramiya head family, remember that when you answer me. Are there any ways in or out of that room other than the main entrance? As father's closest aide, I'm sure you would know. Aunt Natsui looked a little offended at the part about the highest ranked family member, but she kept her mouth closed for the time being and waited for Genji's answer. I couldn't help but feel a little uncomfortable. Why was she going on and on about hidden doors? You too, Kanin-kun, Kumasawa-san. If you know, won't you tell me? If there is one, it'd be better if you'd said so. Otherwise, a certain person might be driven into a corner in a second. If we assume that there is a hidden door, then my argument comes to nothing. Aunt Ava didn't specify which person was about to be driven into a corner. Following the flow of conversation, I had to feel she was referring to Aunt Natsui. Mother, what are you talking about? George, stay quiet a bit. What do you say? Genji-san, Kanin-kun, or Kumasawa-san? Is there a hidden door, or not? Genji-san, when you remodeled Father's study, you must have overseen the construction. I won't let you say you don't know. There is nothing like that in the Master's study. You're sure? What about Kanin-kun, one who's allowed to wear the one-winged eagle? That's right, I'm sure. There is no such hidden door in Master's study. Kumasawa-san? No, I haven't heard of such a thing. What about Dr. Nanjo? You've had a close relationship with Father? I have heard of something like that. Oh, very well then. Oh, wait. Okay, I thought he said the exact opposite of what he just said. That would have been so freaking weird. Very well. So are you ready? Let me begin. It's very simple. Ooh, wind. Everyone tilted their head doubtfully, wondering what Aunt Ava was starting to talk about so proudly. Aunt Ava laughed triumphantly, as though she were about to reveal a secret only she knew. Natsuhi Nesan was the last person to spot father, right? I forgot the exact time, but I think it was a little before 9 in the morning. Nesan, do you remember? I ran into you just as you were coming out of father's study, right? Yes, I remember. What does that have to do with anything? Oh, this track gets me freaking grooving. And when was the next time you went to visit father's study? That was after we found the bodies of Nissan and the rest, right? Together with me, went up to the study to report that, and we discovered that he wasn't there. By the way, Nissan, at that time, when you went in to enter father's study, did you notice anything? Well, what they're also aren't saying, and it's very possible that Kinzo just left when they were literally everybody except Maria. Maria's not gonna say anything. Is that he could have just left. From my understanding, he could have just left between them all leaving the house to go discover the dead bodies, because they're all like at the shed. They're not gonna see him like leave. And the shed is like kind of like, from my understanding, is like in a little like kind of a corner that you're not really able to easily see from the rest of the rose garden. So he really could have just snuck out. Together with me, you went up to the... Okay, we already did that. By the way, Nye-san, at that time, when you went to enter father's study, did you notice anything? Notice anything? What are you talking about? Come on. You picked up some trash, right? A folded receipt. I do not seem to remember picking up some trash. How is that relevant? I got that receipt when I bought some candy at a store before arriving to the airport. Aunt Ava pulled out a small bag of candy out of her handbag. Ah, the receipt from that candy you bought back there. Mother, what does that receipt have to do with anything? George, stay quiet and just listen for a bit longer. Uncle Hideyoshi's expression was a little strict. Apparently, he understood what Aunt Ava was getting at. It really was just a whim. I definitely didn't foresee anything or try to set up a trap for Natsume Nesan or anything like that. Actually, about that receipt. Nesan, you remember bumping into me right after the last time you saw father, right? At that time, I wedged this into the door to the study. Oh! So we do know Kinzo went through the front door. We do know. So what does that mean? Oh, wait. I'm a little confused. It's either I know what they're playing at, but I'm a little lost in the sauce right now. So what does that mean? Are you saying no one opened the door until Aunt Natsuhi picked up that receipt? Wait a second. Aunt Ava, wedging a receipt in would be obvious. It's possible that when grandfather opened the door, he noticed it, found it amusing, and stuck it back in the door. Jessica hurriedly argued back. Oh, she's kind of right. She still didn't really know what this all meant, but she realized that, whatever it was, it would raise suspicions about her own mother. Of course, I folded the receipt up in a very small... Common criticism. This track is called Fishy Aroma. I love that. Common criticism from Umineko is that parts are a bit overwritten. However, One reason for this is that things are explained in line to make more fairness to the episode installed. Foreshadowed everywhere else, but it's hard to spot all on a first read. Yeah, I think that's fair. I like it in times like this, but like there were parts like I remember that whole like spiel about like explaining how public companies work and like how Hideyoshi like company was like had a hostile takeover. Like they didn't even use the word hostile takeover, but that's what it was. Like stuff like that. But overall, like this game is really good. And I will keep fighting with this year. Of course, I folded the receipt up very small so that no one would notice it. But even if you assume that he saw it fall, he would have no way of knowing how high up the door it had been stuck, right? I checked it while Natsumi-ne-san was taking the key out. The receipt was still stuck not 1 millimeter away from where I put it. I can't understand why you pulled such a childish prank. I'll bet you were the one who did that prank on the door to my room, too. The door to your room? It was unpleasant to talk about, so I never mentioned. I can't believe she kept it hidden for this long. Yeah, I'm convinced if Beatrice actually didn't kill all these people, it was her. She's my 20%. 80% Beatrice, 20% Natsuhi. But when I woke up this morning, there was no signs of some prank on the outside of my door with what was probably the same red paint that was scribbled across the Dog, I don't think that was paint. I think that was sanguine blood. There were some unpleasant marks, as though someone had been tearing at the door. What? What's this? How'd you keep this quiet about this until now? My apologies. Since so many horrible things have occurred since then, I have completely forgotten about it until this moment. I don't know anything about that. I'm not talking about your door, but the door to Father's room, right? Between the time you confirmed that he was in his room and the time we confirmed that he wasn't, the door wasn't even opened once. How did Father get out if he didn't use the door? Conversely, why did she put it in the door in the first place? That's what she should be saying, is did you suspect he was gonna leave? Did you know something was going on? Really makes you think. I don't know that. That's what I want to know. Natsuhine-san, other than you, who else checked to see whether Father was in the room? Last time I met Kinza-san was when we were playing chess. So I was with him until just before dinner. Who saw him after that? I did. I gave him his dinner last night. Yes. Shannon and I were with him. So at that time, Father was definitely in his room. However, Natsuhime-san, when you found out he was in there, it looks like all ways in and out of the study were closed, right? But even so, you said you met with him this morning? I don't understand why everyone has become so gloomy. Can someone please explain it to me? Father and Mother, are you saying that Natsui says about meeting grandfather this morning was a lie? Like hell she'd lie about that. Mom's guiltless. Why would she lie? Jessica! I keep telling you to watch your life. Oh, she said hell. Come on, give her a break. She's 18. She could say hell. All at once, the whole room was in uproar. Aunt Ava and Aunt Natsume confronted each other across the parlor table, with George confronting Jessica. What the heck's going on? Wait a minute. What if the two who are close isn't referring to two individuals, but two branches of the family? Maybe that's what's going on here. Now none of the family trust each other. Maybe, like, they're now being torn apart. They all suspect each other. Many people spotted him last night, right? But since this morning, the only one who claims to have seen Father is Natsuhime-san. And then there's why that strange fact we learned from my receipt. So how can we connect these points together? Aunt Ava urged everyone to imagine it. Sure, the receipt could be an important point, but I don't know which other points tied to it, or how. If we try searching for the answer, oh my gosh, answer Aunt Ava probably wants, we'll find that Aunt Natsuhi lied and acted as though grandfather was in the room this morning. Has that fact been exposed by a whim of Aunt Ava's? I don't get it at all. Why would Mom have to lie? She has no reason to, right? That's what I want to know. But Jessica-chan, you can't be sure she had no reason to lie and say that grandfather was in the room. After all, you see it in mystery novels every now and then. That trick where people fake the time of death to create an alibi for themselves. What are you talking about? I've never heard of that. We still haven't found Father yet, but it's pretty natural to assume that he's already been killed. I just had a killer idea to go pick up some food. I might do that like at what time is how long have I been streaming? 1:48. Maybe in like an hour I'll order food. Like I'll order food and I'll go pick it up. I'm done for 10 minutes. I don't know, think about it. I'm hungry. Or maybe I'll just get it after stream. But I wanted to do a longer stream today, so that's kinda I think I'll just like maybe at 3 hours, I'll end the stream, go get food, eat, come back. Yep, that's the plan. That will be very, very delicious. So I'm gonna go for another hour and 10 minutes, and then I'm just gonna leave the game on. Alright, that's perfect. Alright, if that's true, there's no doubt we'll find his corpse soon. If, at that point, the time of death could be cleverly faked, Natsuhi-ne-san would be able to create an alibi. Do you understand, everyone? I'm getting gas station food. I'm getting just straight gas station food. I'm getting sliders and mozzarella sticks. This morning, when Aunt Natsuhi confirmed that grandfather was there, she lied. It's gonna be great. This morning, when Aunt Natsuhi confirmed that grandfather was there, she lied. And he already... And what... Oh, wait. I had to reread this. I was too busy talking about food. Okay. This morning, when Aunt Natsuhi confirmed that grandfather was there, she lied, and he is already dead at that time? And then, she moved the body so it's some other location and tampered with it so that when we find about it, we'll just think he was killed just a second ago. That'd make it possible for her to create an alibi. Even just by staying with the rest of us. Then she could say I heard someone screaming. Dash over there and become the first to find the body along with everyone else. Is that what Aunt Ava's saying? Ridiculous. Ridiculous! After all, detective novels are merely books for the purpose of entertainment. You can only think of such an indiscreet idea because you read it all the time. That's right. Even if she did try to fake the time of death a little, all that would be blown away in an instant once the police did their autopsy. That might have worked in the past. Do you really think a trick like that would work in modern Japan in 1986, right before financial crash, and before DNA evidence with a DNA forensics were invented? Oh my gosh. To me, it's canon that the Shiromiya loses all their money in the Japanese stock market crash. Investing in hotels, like, that is such a bad idea. And then he sold them for even less, like literal. And even today, the Japanese economy is just like super stagnant. Even though they have some of the hardest working people in the world, they're so inefficient at managing an economy. It's hilarious. So I can't even help talking about it because I'm such a history nerd. But like for 20 years, from the 90s up to like 2003, when the recession was happening in Japan, their economy was only growing by 1% a year. 1% economic growth per year. That might have worked in the past, but do you really feel that trick will work in modern Japan? It doesn't make sense. You think so? This morning, when Dr. Nanjo looked at the corpses, he was only able to give us a vague estimate at the time of death, right? Autopsy results are easily affected by the environment and the individual differences. It's a very relative estimate, with an uncertainty of several hours. And unfortunately, the police's scientific investigation will have to wait until tomorrow. It wouldn't be easy to measure the correct time of death so accurately, even in modern Japan. Isn't that right, Dr. Nanjo? Examining a corpse is an extremely difficult task that requires both experience and instinct. I have heard that there's a very high chance of a mistaken diagnosis. I imagine it is very possible for misreading of just a few hours to occur. However, for an alibi, that's more than enough. It's an old trick. However, for an alibi, it's more than enough. It's an old trick. It's a trick that works well enough. Natsuhime-san, it's not like we want to suspect you, okay? We just want you to prove your innocence so we don't have to suspect you. Has she always been having the gun with us? Like, did she just re-pull out the gun? What is this innocence you want me to prove? This morning I definitely met with Father, and he told me to keep the one-winged eagle engraved in my heart. Are you denying that he said that too? I will certainly not permit that. I won't let you deny that Father said those words. Or maybe Father's body would appear anywhere. Normally, a person has to be missing for 7 years before they're officially dead. I just watched The Irishman, which is about the killing of Teamster Union leader Jimmy Hoffa. I think he was missing for like 10 years. He was killed by the mafia. Wouldn't that be a clever way to extend Father's clearly finished life another 7 years and keep all of his wealth for yourself? Whoa! Whoa! She freaking cocked it. I can't let you get away saying that. I can't let you get away saying anymore. I am Shiromiya Natsui. Although I do not have the right to wear the one-winged eagle on my body, it is certainly engraved on my heart. What do you think you're saying to the wife of Kraus, successor to the head, and the one who will act as such in his place? What is this? Are you gonna shoot me with that gun? Go ahead. If only you just shoot. You're just desperate because you can't think of a way out, right? Do it. just to try to obscure the truth of violence. You! It wasn't a lie. It wasn't like Aunt Natsuki had actually been holding a gun at the ready and threatening anyone. But as she was egged on by Aunt Ava, she did hold it at the ready. Unsurprisingly, once things got to this stage, Jessica and Genji-san tried to stop her. Madam, please calm yourself. Mom, you aren't lying, so there's no reason for you to listen to this. Calm down, Natsuki-san. All you gotta do is swear that father definitely was in that room. Why are you getting so worked up? That is correct. Natsuki-san isn't lying. Shouldn't that be the end of it? Then I want you to explain. How did father manage to disappear from the room? The window was closed tight from the inside. The same was true for the door, right? This morning, if you really met with father, then you must explain how father disappeared from this unopenable door closed room scenario. This is some clue shit. We're moved on into this shit is just clue. This morning, if you really met up with father, then you must explain. Okay, unopen the door, close the room scenario. If you don't, that means you're lying after all, right? How dare you plan to mock me? If you want to argue back, go ahead. That's right. Try explaining it right here, right now. If you do, I'll apologize for suspecting you. How did father manage to get out from that closed room? I cannot explain, and there's no need for me to do so. Really? Then let me explain it. Let's take the best parts from my perspective and yours and come up with a more friendly explanation. I'll believe what you said about father still being in his room this morning. However, the next time the door was open, father wasn't there. You don't have any objections so far, right? I have no desire to hear anything more that you have to say. Shut your frivolous mouth. Oh, this is Natsuki, Ava, Kinzo. Yeah. My reasoning goes like this, okay? I can confirm that on both occasions, you were the only one to go through that door. And this receipt proves it. So, what's the answer to the puzzle of how father left the room? The window. He was sent out the window. Natsui Nesan, you threw father out of a third-story window of the study into the courtyard. You! Madam, please endure it. Eva-sama, please stop this. After that, when you left, you said you were going to check the doors and windows. You took father's corpse, which had fallen in the courtyard, and hid it. That was probably when you took some measures to fake the time of death, right? Okay, she's kind of on to something. Ava is on to something. She's being very logical here. This ties in the case regarding Proust, Nissan, and the rest, but also case regarding Beatrice last night. This also, but in her defense, her husband's also dead. And she had, objectively, she had no reason to kill... She had no reason to kill Kinzo because her daughter was already second in line to the inheritance. The bulk of the inheritance. I mean... Not necessarily, though. No, not at all, because... Okay, never mind that, then. I don't think these siblings... I think if Kinzo had just died... Like, I thought Kinzo was gonna die. But I think if Kinzo had died, they would not have gotten him at all. Normally, I would want to say this. But now... Oh, wait. But now, It's out in the open, there's nothing else I can do. Please, Natsuhine-san, please explain how you can be innocent. Otherwise, I can't help suspicion. Why me? Why must I, Ushirami and Natsuhi, be insulted like this? Looks like we've got everyone's views on record now. Freaking Light Yagavi over here coming to break up the argument. Alright, Light. Let's see what you got. It's useless. It's all useless. Aunt Ava. What do you mean, useless? Jessica looked up at me, hanging on to my every word. Aunt Ava's expression was as confident as ever. Useless, you say? What is, Battler-kun? Tell me. You're only convinced it was Aunt Natsuhi because you're only looking at the case from a single angle. It's not like I'm defending her, but that bluff of a checkmate isn't gonna fly. I think your reasoning regarding the receipt is passable. It's not a bad thread of logic, but I'd only give it a grade of 65 at best. If this were an exam, that'd be enough to get you extra lessons in detention, right? Oh my. Well, how do you think anyone could break through the door sealed by my receipt and make Father disappear? Other than by my theory. It's true, your theory is an interesting one, and if you could say for sure that there was no way to make Grandfather disappear... Well, also, let's think forensically here. If it's been pouring... Zenzen dameda. Thank you. I'm gonna keep saying Zenzen dameda. Muda muda muda. I feel like, just like thinking forensically, if it's been pouring down rain for 24 hours, it's gonna be on an island. It's gonna be really muddy, and there would be like footprints and tracks, and they're not even looking for it. They're not thinking forensically. They're thinking logically, and unfortunately, logic is only so good. So he needs to go outside right now and look for some footprints. And have someone go with him to verify the fact that he's stepping around outside looking. However, since there's still a possibility she's innocent and these accusations are false, we can't be sure about that. Battler-kun, are you saying someone other than Natsuhine made Grandfather disappear? It'd be impossible for anyone else to do it. My receipt proved that, right? After the first time she visited the study, and until the second time when we visited together, the study was a perfect closed room. And when the seal was broken on the closed room, he was already missing. Zenzen dameda. That doesn't prove she's the culprit. What kind of trick could they have used? Like I said on Ava, only 65 points. So let's try spinning the chessboard around, shall we? The question isn't how someone managed to make Grandfather disappear from the outside. We should think about how Grandfather disappeared from the inside. The door had the receipt stuck in it, so it couldn't have been used. He used magic, obviously. because you can't lock it from the outside. And when Aunt Ava visited the study, she checked it to make sure it was locked. So the window also wasn't used. At that point, the study really was a closed room. We have to accept this. However, the study didn't remain in a closed room forever. Once the seal created by the receipt was removed, it'd be possible for someone to escape the door. In other words, the question isn't how Aunt Natsuhi made Grandfather disappear. We need to think about how he was able to escape. Grandfather's study isn't an ordinary study, right? They just need to search it. According to Genji-san, there's a toilet and a kitchen and even a bedroom. Almost like I want to physically look through this space. I want to see could he have hidden in there? Okay. Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. He could have been hiding under the bed, and then they moved the paper, and then he left after they left. Aunt Ava, you didn't even check that far, right? And then, the two of you went back down the stairs thinking he wasn't there. At that time, the receipt was already gone. Oh, he's so right. Yeah. I wish they had elaborated. I guess... Nope, that was just my short thinking. I could have figured that out if I was thinking harder. If Grandfather was hiding in his room the whole time, it was a closed room. And he escaped after letting the two of you go past him. When we can crack this closed room right... We can... Reading is hard. We can crack this closed room right open. What are you talking about? Why would Father need to escape the room in such a bizarre fashion? Because he thinks it's funny watching... He thinks this is all funny. Basically, that's it. I think he just thinks it's funny. Don't be so absurd. Yeah, it might be absurd. However, it still shows that there's a possibility Aunt Natsuhi is being falsely accused. Your receipt wasn't perfect. In chess, we might call that check. But it isn't checkmate. The thing that really pisses me off is how you're pressuring Aunt Natsuhi to explain it, then claiming she must be guilty if she doesn't. If you want to go down that road, then why don't you let me, Ushiramiya Battler, spin the chessboard around one more time? This is like Yu-Gi-Oh! We've gone from Death Note to Clue to Yu-Gi-Oh! Aunt Ava, according to your own argument, Kinzo is pranking them. He really is. You must explain to us why you and Uncle Hideyoshi couldn't have killed those 6 last night and then casually returned to the guest house. Whoops, I just clicked off the screen. You've been trying to force Aunt Natsuhi to explain, so I'm sure you can prove your own innocence, right? Especially now that all of Grandfather's wealth is suddenly plopped down right into your hands. That's right, you're suspicious enough yourself, aren't you? If you say Mom's suspicious because she was the last person to see him, then what about you, Aunt Ava, the last person to see Dad and the rest? Just like Battler said, prove that you two weren't the ones who killed them. Mother, I also think your reasoning was a little overeager. I'm sure the receipt was an important hint, but like Battler Kun said, that's not enough to prove that Aunt Natsuhi was responsible for some plot. We're all equally suspicious. It's not right for only Aunt Natsuhi to be persecuted. Our proud father, crawling under his bed? You called nonsense like that an explanation? To be fair, if you're drinking absinthe like he does, you could probably wake up in some really fun and interesting places. In that case, why don't you explain first? Who killed those six, and how? And then try showing us proof that you weren't involved. Oh God. Is she okay? Milady. Jessica suddenly started coughing. At first I thought she was just choking after yelling too loud, but I realized how painful it looked. Jessica kept coughing and choking, down on her hands and knees. Jessica, hang in there. Dr. Nanjo. Jessica-san, your inhaler, quick. She's asthmatic? Oh, we love an asthmatic queen. Yay. I'm asthmatic. Hell yeah. Dr. Nanjo pulled out a bronchodilator inhaler from his own bag, which was lying on the sofa, and handed it to Jessica. Come to think of it, 6 years ago, didn't Jessica sometimes break into violent coughing fits and have to use that? However, 6 years ago, I never saw Jessica look like she was in this much pain. Aniki, was Jessica's asthma always that bad? Queen Jessica. When I went hiking in the mountains, the Rocky Mountains this year, like 10,000 feet above sea level, I was freaking huffing my inhaler. It was awful. It was so bad. I couldn't even do it. I was like living like 200 feet above sea level, and then I had to go to 10,000. I got my ass absolutely handed to me by the Rocky Mountains, but it was the most beautiful place I've ever been in the whole world. Aniki, was Jessica's asthma always this bad? It's gotten a lot worse these last few years. It's no problem when she's normal, but when an attack comes suddenly, she can't stop coughing anymore. Milady, your medicine, here. Taking the inhaler from Cannon Cone, Jessica used it with a practiced hand. She knows how to use that albuterol. It looked like her throat would still itch for a while, but she had it under control. You okay, Jessica? You scared me. It's no big deal. Don't worry about it. It was a great time. The big takeaway was that I was really out of shape. This disturbance had made the dangerous atmosphere up until now seem slightly unfocused, but that's fine. That kind of battle of mutual suspicion is completely unnecessary. When you think about it, finding alibis for each other and looking for the culprit is probably meaningless. After all, we're just powerless, ordinary people. They'll definitely employ cutting edge techniques and investigate the case thoroughly, solving all the riddles and arresting the culprit. Perhaps Battler-kun is right after all. Just as Natsuhine-san is suspicious, I can't ignore the fact that I'm suspicious too. Arguing about it now will surely be unproductive. Everything will be fine if we just leave it to the police tomorrow. But don't you want to know too, Battler-kun, who the culprit is? Don't you want to let them know the pain you feel from losing someone precious to you as soon as possible? I won't deny that. Even one day would be too long to let the wonderful bastard who's behind this go. But that doesn't mean that I suspect one of the 18. Even though I said what I said earlier, I don't even suspect you, Aunt Ava. To me, you're just an awesome aunt who's always fun and playful. I don't want to trade insults with an aunt like that. I wouldn't want to go. to do that with anyone here, right? Everyone? I feel the same way as Battler-kun. It's pointless to trade insults. It's probably just the stress built up because so many people have been crammed into one place since morning. Probably. It is only natural. It may or may not be my place to say it, but I think we should relax as much as possible. Ava, I think we'd better cool our heads too. The receipt's definitely a big clue for figuring out how Father disappeared. We should tell the police about it when they come. That's right. Right. I just felt a little triumphant when I figured out that part of the receipt. It still doesn't explain why she put the receipt there in the first place, to be fair. And Battler didn't even question that. Yeah, I think you should have given her a little more pushback. We're just as suspicious. But still, Battler-kun, at least the part about the receipt is real, okay? Don't forget it. And try thinking about what it means one more time, okay? Ellipses. Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi stood up. It looked like they planned on leaving the parlor. In the end, it's pointless for us to keep playing detectives. After all, the police will reveal anything anyway. That's right. Even if we don't play this detective game, the typhoon will pass. And when those lively seagulls return to the harbor, everything will settle itself. That's right. If you think about it, this kind of crime is completely trivial. It will definitely be resolved. Even if we do nothing. And the seagulls cry. That's the name of the game! That's the name of the game! That's the name of the game! Let's go! Natsui Nason, I don't take it you want to see my face anymore. I feel the same. If I remember correctly, yesterday you had some rooms prepared for us in the mansion so that we wouldn't need to go back into the guest house, right? Those should each have a bath and a toilet, as well as a lock and chain to secure the door. Each room has its own bathroom? Jeez. There's even a bed to lie on. My husband will be able to watch TV without having to fight with Maria-chan over which channel to watch, right? Ellipses. Do whatever you want. Make sure to be cautious. Thank you, Nason. And mind your own business. I'll be counting on you to keep an eye on everyone, okay? She's freaking Johnny Cowboy over here with her freaking Henry rifle. Or her Winchester. That thing is illegally modified. That would get her the ATF all up in her shit. Because the culprit is definitely here. And Nason, make sure you don't forget to keep an eye on yourself, too. Have you finished taking your parting shots? Yes, I'm finished. See you, Matsui Nason. Genji-san, let us know when it's time for dinner. I have so many tabs open, it's unreal. I keep clicking off the screen, oh my gosh. Until then, we'll lock ourselves in with the chain. Genji, Cannon, escort them to the guest room. We'll be fine. I hate shady escorts. That's kind of not trustworthy at all, to be honest. They're like the only two that, like, these two could be in cahoots. She should refuse that. She should refuse that. Let's go, George. I'll stay here with everyone. George! The culprit is in this room. Do you plan on staying in a place like that? Leaving this room would be the same as suspecting one of my relatives. I can't believe anyone in my family is capable of something that horrible. George! Darling, you tell him too.
George is already an adult man. If his code tells him not to leave this room, then it's up to him. Let him do what he wants.
Father.
Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi left. The only voice that called after them was the sound of the rain. The parlor was being buried beneath the savage atmosphere. When I looked at the clock, I was surprised to find that it was already evening. Have we really spent that much time worrying about needless things, talking with each other, fighting with each other? Feeling bored, I started scratching at my head when Maria and I made eye contact. I was a little surprised since I thought she was completely immersed in the TV. I believe it now. The letters, the murders, everything. It was all Beatrice. In fact, I almost feel like begging for her to come out and take credit for it all. I want it to be the work of a 19th person. Otherwise, the 18 of us will have to keep suspecting each other. I think believing in a 19th person is better than that. Ellipses. Bringing grandfather outside without opening the doors or window must be a piece of cake for Beatrice, right? Maria, after taking a single short breath, hung her head and then raised her face again. That's right. Locking a door is useless against a witch. Beatrice is familiar with all 72 demons. The 33rd ranked Gap gives the power to instantly carry the desired person to any location. That shit's real. This girl is reading the Lesser Key of Solomon. To her, taking a person out of any closed room isn't hard at all, you see. Witches sure are incredible. Tell her, if she feels like committing another crime, to do it in a way that no human could. And make me believe that a 19th person, no, a witch, exists. Okay. If I meet her, I'll tell her. Crap. Nothing's made sense for a while now. Ryukishi loves eclipses? Who's Ryukishi? Oh, the author. Just when I want to believe in a 19th person, I deny it. And just when I want to believe there are only 18 people, I deny that too. Even though I want there to be more than just the 18 people here, I can't accept the existence of that 19th person. In short, even though there are more than 18 people, there are less than 19 people. The number of people in this mansion is 19 greater than X is greater than 18. So the number of people can't be represented by an integer. However, it's impossible for there to be anything after the decimal point. You shouldn't be able to show the number of people with anything but an integer. And yet, 19 is greater than X is greater than 8. How do you explain the fraction of less than 1? It's no wonder. That 19th person was something that couldn't be seen. That's why, since you can only write the number of people as an integer, you couldn't see that person. That witch cannot be seen, because Beatrice has no body. Therefore, she is invisible. Is there a 19th person or not? Does that witch exist or not? 19 is greater than X is greater than 18. That would be like the name of this chapter if this was a book. One of my favorite books of all time is House of Leaves, and I feel like that's kind of something from House of Leaves. Mirror shattered. It is now. It's it's 7 o'clock. They've been at that for 6 hours, like arguing and suspecting each other. The uncomfortable atmosphere continued even after those two left. It was thick with the idea that simply thinking about the culprit's identity would be the same as deciding whom to suspect. Yeah, House of Leaves is just outstanding. It has like 7 layers of narrative. It is like an onion. That book is freaking a total onion of a book. I gave my copy away to somebody. Because I don't know, I like giving people books. So no one mentioned the case, at least out loud. However, those thoughts were what filled our minds. All that we couldn't say aloud made our heads feel like they were going to explode. So at least on the outside, the parlor had once again regained its calm mood. Everything was left unsettled. It feels like the rain's gotten a little lighter. Still pouring down. Even if it did stop, there's no boat on this island. It would be nice if the boat came quickly tomorrow. I have a feeling that it's not going to stop raining and the boat is not coming. I've had enough of this Western mansion vacation. Are you really laughing when your freaking parents are dead? You're so cool, Battler. Mom, when will the boat come tomorrow? Normally, the boat to take them back would arrive at 3 o'clock today. They probably sent us a phone call to say they would come after the typhoon passed, but unfortunately, the phones aren't working. But they aren't children over there. They were told to both drop off and collect our guests, so they will most likely be arriving the first thing tomorrow morning, probably at about 9 o'clock, I believe. It was completely black outside. When I looked at the clock, I realized it was just past 7. I was starting to get hungry. And their chef is dead too, which freaking sucks. In the kitchen, Kumasawa was cooking enthusiastically. She's had laid out a variety of dishes, and while they didn't match the level of Goda's artful cooking, they were still quite gorgeous. It was an act of kindness from Kumasawa, who was trying to enliven everyone's low spirits with some food. Kumasawa wasn't nearly as talented as a professional cook like Goda, but she was far from unskilled. On the contrary, since it had been brought up in she had been brought up in a fishing village, the simple food she created was sometimes highly praised. Cannon arranged the food Kumasawa had finished creating on the plates under her direction. Cannon also helped in the kitchen sometimes, but since he was rarely placed in that role, he was slightly awkward, even though he had tried his best. Yeah. But Kumasawa smiled as though everything was fine. Ha ha ha, it's arranged beautifully. Cannon could, aren't you skilled? If it had been Shannon-san, Nason, it would look even more beautiful. Cannon stopped arranging the food for a bit and hung his head. Shannon was the one who always assisted Kumasawa in her cooking. tonight Cannon was doing it instead. And as he remembered Shannon's face and her brutal end, he grimaced. Forget about that for now. Genji spoke kindly to Cannon as he advanced a pawn. Nanjo had escaped from the parlor once his mood had grown sour, and Genji had become his opponent in a game of chess upon Nanjo's request. Yes, I will forget it for now, indeed. That is probably for the best. Genji purposely refrained from facing Cannon as he spoke. He did so because he understood that it might make things tougher on Cannon if he noticed that someone was looking at his eyes. Nanjo understood that and held back any thoughtless words. I wonder where Kinzo-san is gone. I hope that he was safe, but I do not know. However, I believe everything he has processed as the master has hoped and arranged for. Yeah, Kizo knew all this was happening because he was talking about the devil's roulette and shit, and he was like sniffing it. To distrust that would exceed my role as furniture in service to the master. Aren't you scared, Genji-san? I'm frightened that something will occur again tonight. I have nothing to be afraid of. I serve the Oshiramiya family, and that is all. Nanjo sighed as though through his nose and made a carefully considered move. Nanjo was very slightly dubious. Could Genji possibly be thinking that he'd be left out of this? He couldn't even imagine what was happening inside this mansion. But he definitely couldn't deny the possibility that Kinzo had devised something. If you liken this island to chess, Kinzo had opened the game, and as a result, 6 pieces had been defeated. Could it be that Genji was calm because he believed he alone was on the outside of the chessboard and therefore safe? Nanjo thought about it. Isn't everyone just a piece on this chessboard, lined up equally without any exceptions? Wasn't even Genji, who had gained more of Kinzo's trust than anyone, no, who was confident of his position of Kinzo's only close friend, just another one of the pieces laid out on the chessboard? Genji-san, I am truly frightened about tonight. I hope that with all my heart that we will be safe when tomorrow morning comes. Ooh, I just love the little rainy atmosphere. It's making my day. God, who doesn't love a little autumn storm? The guest room Ava and Hideyoshi moved into had originally been built to house guests before the guest house's construction. So until a few years ago, they had stayed in these rooms every familiar family conference and were very familiar with them. This room was just like a room at a hotel with a bedroom and a bathroom, so even though they were still shut in, it was far more comfortable than the parlor. Guess it's true you can relax more when you're alone with your family. Maybe it'd be better if everyone else also shut themselves in guest rooms and locked the doors. Natsuine-san said no one could leave the parlor, throwing her weight around. I'm sure no one will be able to talk back. She's always been treated so coldly. Now that Nissan's dead, she's getting excited about finally having so much power. Seriously, how shameless can she be? Come now, don't say that. Natsui-san's doing pretty well. No need to jump her like that. And about the receipt earlier, you went too far. Come on. If I hadn't said it there, then there wouldn't be a good time to say it. Ava, sulking cutely and looking at the television alongside Hideyoshi, who was lying on the bed. Oh God. Still, we haven't been alone like this for quite some time. You're right. Come to think of it, both you and I have gotten pretty old. Since George was born, everything's gone by in a blink of an eye. It really has. I wonder if we were too hasty in having a child. Ava's eyes looked like they were staring off into the distance. This is getting freaking real. Yes, she had thought of it as a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Her older brother, Kraus, had been unable to father a child for quite some time. 6 years passed after his marriage to Natsui without any signs of pregnancy, which didn't please Kinzo at all. All of this whole family is like very infertile. Like, Rudolph only had one kid, Rosa only had one kid, Ava only had one kid, Kraus only had one kid. I don't know. I think it's weird. That there's 4 branches and 4 children in the branches. Also, I still don't like how this slot is open and this slot's open. Ava herself had thought that since her name would be moved outside the Yoshirimiya register once she got married anyway, it didn't matter whether a successor to the headship was born or not. And then, one day, she'd had a heavenly revelation. Or maybe it was the whisperings of the devil that she had listened to in her greed. If she could give birth to a successor first, wouldn't she be able to remain in the Ushirimiya register? If things went well, might she have the chance to inherit the Ushirimiya family herself? When she proposed this to Hideyoshi, he had approved of it instantly. This wasn't because Hideyoshi also had greedy thoughts. For Hideyoshi, who had no close relatives, it was a chance for him to feel once more the long-forgotten thing called family. So when they got married, he hadn't fussed over which last name they were to keep, and had quickly agreed to have his name entered into the Yoshirimiya family register in a matrilineal marriage. It hadn't been easy to persuade Kinzo, but as his daughter knew, Ava knew Kinzo's personality well. So by choosing the time when Kinzo was most dissatisfied with Natsui, she was magnificently able to make him accept Hideyoshi as an adopted son-in-law. Looking at Hideyoshi, who had achieved success after starting from nothing, Kinzo might have seen a bit of himself. He quickly grew to like Hideyoshi and approved his transfer into the Yoshirimiya family register. George would eventually become the successor to the Yoshirimiya family. They raised him strictly with that purpose in mind. He had been worth their while and had grown into a fabulous young man who wouldn't disappoint no matter where he went. That was why he had not been able to permitted to fall in love with a servant like Shannon. So when she'd learned that Shannon was dead, and that the engagement was now invalid, though part of her had still been shocked by the gruesome crime, part of her had also been relieved that her dear George wouldn't be stolen by some servant girl. Ellipses. I have hated Kraus Nissan since long ago. He's always so full of himself, always swaggering around, so proud that he would one day become the head. So I wanted to get back at him. Is that just a childish emotion? But in the end, that emotion guided my entire life. If that had been all, then it wouldn't have been fine. But because of that emotion, I got you and George involved. I used you. Ava, don't blame yourself for that. Hideyoshi got up and held Ava's shoulder. She could feel a warm understanding from him. Well, I reached a halfway point in my life long ago. But you know, I have absolutely no regrets of how I've lived my life. Not one. I think that since I've been with you, Ava, I've been able to relish and enjoy an enjoyable life that no other man will. After I lost my relatives in the war, oh my gosh, you reminded me of what I of the warmth of family is. So I'm grateful to the Yoshirimiya family and think of it as my only one. In this life I've led with you, not a single thing's been wasted. It's really been a fun lineup till today. Thank you, darling. Ava hung her head, burying her face in Hideyoshi's chest. Probably no one in the parlor could even imagine that this side of Ava existed. I'm the only one who should be thanking you. Until today, there hasn't been a single day I've regretted being with you. Me too. I'm so glad to have you by my side. George is already a fine adult. Even if I don't look out for him, he's a man who could do his job well on his own. I wonder. The Maldives? Why the Maldives? Around New Year's, do you want to go spend time in the Maldives? Just us, no one else. No way. Aren't you always saying that you're so busy responding to New Year's cards that you don't even sleep? None of that this New Year's. I won't read New Year's cards. I'll just stay quiet and check to see if I've won the New Year's lottery. It'd sure be nice if we won a color TV this year. They've had color TV for like 10 years at this point. I don't think that long, but they've had color TV for a while. At least in the States. I mean, it's 86. Wait, what year were flat screen TVs invented? $1964? It's never too late. I'm like, why am I worrying about this? No way. I don't have time. I don't want to waste time checking the lottery on the Maldives. But none of that either. How does it sound? Just the two of us. It could get easy like when we were newlyweds just before George was born. Yes. In that case, fine. I hear the Maldives are wonderful. An island with nothing on it, surrounded by beautiful coral reefs and cottages lined up over the water. That was like a Walton Goggins voice. Like we were newlyweds, you say. Starting when? As soon as I'm finished up with some business. I won't know till I ask the travel agency, but probably before New Year's Eve. No way. Right now? I want to go right now. I think they could probably get away with taking a break from work, considering that half her family is dead. Ava nagged at his lips in a peevish yet flirtatious manner. The only sound that filled the room were the distant voice of the announcer on the news, which Hideyoshi had left on, and the obnoxious pounding of the rain against. There's nothing obnoxious about that. That is scenic. They then had sex. If a character has sex in this game, I'm gonna lose my shit. There was a knock on the door and Genji-san answered. Madam, dinner's been prepared. Will you eat in here again? Yes. Have it brought here. Is Dr. Nanjo still in the kitchen? Yes. He said he wishes to carefully deliberate over his next move. Do not worry, he is with the other servants. Genji-san's good enough at chess to be grandfather's opponent. I hear he's even better than Dr. Nanjo, right? That's right. Long ago he played against me, but he must have let me win. Maria, sounds like it'll be time to eat soon. But look at you, you've been watching TV all day long and you still haven't gotten bored. Ugh! I'm always watching TV, so I'm fine. Ugh! Heh. Maria-chan sure is a TV kid. Food's coming, so we had to clean up the table. Earlier, we had torn several pages out of Maria's notebook, and there was now a mess where everyone had been drawing together. Jessica had been cleaning that quickly. Oh, that's cute. Still, everyone here really can draw. I really can draw. I'd never guessed. Genji, ask Ava-san and Hideyoshi-san whether they'd at least like to have dinner with us. Although they probably will turn us down. Certainly. First Father, now Ava-san. It's quite hard to gather everyone at the Yushira Mia dinner table. Natsui felt her headache start throbbing again and lightly held her temples. I'm so hungry right now, it's insane. But I gotta get my 3 hours. Shit is about to go down, oh wait, maybe I should go now. Okay. I had a feel, I could kind of tell something was gonna happen. I think I will take my break then, yeah. I'll probably be back in like 30 minutes, maybe an hour, we'll see. But I don't want to leave the stream on because I want to watch YouTube while I eat. And I can't have YouTube while I eat and stream, that's just not the point. So I'll be back in like an hour, 30 minutes, whatever. So be them. Alright, bye-bye.